So now we're going to talk a little bit about the look of Reaper of Souls. And I'd like to ask Christian to come up and talk about that.
Hello, thank you for coming. My name is Christian Leitner. I'm the art director on Diablo III, and I'm really excited about speaking about our newest villain, Malthael. Of course, it's not every time we actually get to design death itself, so this is always very exciting for us. We took some of the visual cues from past lore, but ultimately for his expansion, we really want to make sure that we gave him his very distinct look and really underscore the darker aspect of this new expansion. Now, some of the key elements we really wanted to focus in on as we were working on him was mainly, and first and foremost, his gaunt, dark, foreboding presence. That really implies and belies his incredible, immense power. He has angelic weapons, as you see in the twin sickles, that really he uses to slice his enemies. And he has this incredible power to literally drain his victims from their very souls. Now, also, he has his angelic armor, and really every cue we took visually was to imbue it with skulls and the sickles that you see him using. And the goal there was to really make sure that he came across as death incarnate. His angelic wings are ethereal and skeletal, and really leave no doubt that this is the Angel of Death. Now, of course, this is not the only new villain that you will be facing in Sanctuary. What would an awesome expansion be without new and exciting monsters? As Malthael invades Sanctuary, he literally is converting his victims into monstrous constructs, as Brian mentioned. And they have to follow his every whim and desire. And every new characteristic and ability for these new monsters that you get to play with are as follows. The Seraph here that you see is a dark ranged caster. The Summoner of the Dead raises literally the armies around him to fight against you as you play your way through the expansion. The Executioner is a huge hulking monstrosity with powerful melee attacks. And last but not least, we have the Death Maidens, who, unlike the constructs you've seen before, are actually fallen angels, who are Malthael's most trusted and deadly lieutenants. Of course, with all these new monsters, you need a perfect setting. And we're really excited about sharing with you Westmarch. Now, as Brian mentioned, in Sanctuary, Westmarch is literally the sprawling city of the West. And is the perfect environment to host your struggle against these evil invaders. Visually, we really took a lot of cues from the Gothic sort of Western European influences, and we really want to make sure that the medieval vibe came through as strong as we could. We really want to get to the heart of what makes Diablo Diablo. Also, Westmarch is fully randomizable, and as a result, provides seamless integration between exterior and interior scenes. So as you play the game, you literally will be able to seamlessly transition through interior spaces and exterior spaces. Now, of course, as you delve deeper into Westmarch, you will encounter many of these deep and dark secrets, one of them being these terrifying death orbs. And really, at the heart of it all will be one question for you. Can you help and save Westmarch from the evil clutches of Malthael and his Death Reapers? And to help us answer that question, we have Kevin.
So, the Crusader. When we go to make a new class for something in Diablo, we ask ourselves a few questions. What is the core strong fantasy? How do you as a player feel awesome playing a class? What is the connection to the world of Sanctuary? Why does this person take on the forces of darkness? And what is the cool tactical combat role that these characters have? So to tackle the first two questions, why the Crusader and what is his backstory? His backstory is that hundreds of years ago, the Paladins, last seen in Diablo II, pushed west on their grand crusade, bringing the Zakarum faith with fire and sword. This act ultimately culminated in the founding of the city of Westmarch. Meanwhile, as they pushed west, a small special forces unit of the Paladins, called the Crusaders, pushed east on a secret mission. Now the Crusader is back here at the end of all things to stop the forces of darkness yet again. So the Crusader, the tactical role that they have was really inspired by the fantasy. So we want a mid-range melee character, but why did we want that? We're thinking, what happens if you mix the paladin, that knight in shining armor, with the Spartan war ethos mixed with a modern armored tank? When we get something that is so heavily armored, it is literally an immovable object, and it uses its armor as part of its weaponry. So that's where the shields come in. The Crusaders have Crusader shields. These shields are a core part of their weapons, and we'll show you a few skills in just a moment here. And they have the flails, the big heavy thing. So the Crusader, with his huge armor, wants to be in the middle of a group of enemies, and with his Holy Wrath abilities, he has mid-range spells that he can cast around the battlefield to control the whole thing, and keep the enemies running towards him, destroying ranged enemies in the distance. So we call that a war machine made human, a tank in human form. Let's get right to it. Shield bash. Crusader shields. These, their armor percentage is calculated into the damage a Crusader does. This is just one of the many skills that use the shield as a weapon. Fist of the Heavens, one of just a couple of spells from Diablo II from the Paladins that are returning here. This is that mid-range melee ability. So while he's fighting in the middle of a group of enemies where he wants to be, he can strike at a distance as well. We thought we'd take that fantasy one step further, and that's where Falling Sword comes in. So if a tank has a shell or an artillery strike at a distance, what if the Crusader, being a medieval warrior, literally was the missile? He becomes the missile with Holy Wrath, and that's where Falling Sword comes from. So enough talk for a moment. We actually have a playable demo for everybody, a fully playable demo on the show floor, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of that right now, just a little section of it. Can we please switch to the demo? Okay, so for this particular build of the Crusader, we have 6 abilities. I'm going to layer them all in, and then we'll unleash hell on the enemies towards the end.
So we start on the outskirts of Westmarch. The Crusader has heard about the massacre happening in the city. And so he doesn't know all of the details of what's going on or why, but he immediately makes his way there to try to put an end to the killing. Right off the bat, you run into Borat. He's the young Paragon that Tyrael sent to find you during the cinematic. So he's got a quick message for you before you send him off to get Tyrael and bring him back to the city.
And even here, as you're actually looking down, you see Westmarch in the distance. And looking there, you can actually tell that something obviously is not quite right. And maybe we should go down there and explore a little bit further.
So the first 2 abilities I've been showing off are Fist of the Heavens, this one, and Punish, which is one of his primary attacks with his flail. As we move into the city, we're going to use Shield Glare. Holy energy comes down from the heavens, reflects off your shield, and blinds your enemies.
So obviously bad things are happening in the city here. So you start to run into people fleeing. And you're going to see here how Malthael is able to actually turn the people of Westmarch into his reavers, his death constructs, and turn them against their friends.
And let's show off another ability. Here's Consecration. We'll let them surround me first. Well, while me or my enemies stand within the circle, or my allies stand within the circle, we're healed. In addition, this has a rune where enemies take holy fire damage.
So Kevin, it looks like Malthael has sealed the gate, and you're going to have to find another way into the city. And as you do, you'll notice that anytime you come across these corpses, they'll rise to fight you, because anything that's dead is a tool of Malthael.
Now, as we see Kevin here sort of trying to find a different entry to Westmarch, we'll see a great example of the seamless switching between interior spaces and exterior spaces. So as he's here finding the actual entryway, going inside, and this is the waterway. And as you can see, the lighting changes, and we're now in an interior space.
And it's really important, those transitions really help sell a sense of place. Makes Westmarch feel like a real city in Sanctuary. And again, it really shows off the great Gothic feel in the architecture of Westmarch.
So you're about to find a small group of refugees huddling here. They're actually out of danger. They're safe inside the wall. So if you're searching for refugees, you're going to need to keep moving. And so you can run right past them. We're trying to keep a lot of the storytelling as ambient as possible. And now we're about to meet one of Malthael's signature lieutenants, the Death Maiden. She does this horrible thing to these people and then gets away. So you don't get to fight her yet, but hopefully you'll track her down later.
We're going to activate the Law of Valor. It's a passive ability, much like the mantras, where I gain extra damage as I do critical hits, but it also has an activation bonus of extra damage for everybody. So the only ability we haven't seen yet is Falling Sword. Let's do that now. Artillery strike.
Making his way up here, you can see that there's a wide variety of environments in Westmarch. We're trying to really sort of make it interesting for players for moving for tight spaces where you have to use different strategies and tactics to wide open spaces where you actually fight your way through Westmarch.
Here's a good example of tactics. I'm with melee enemies here. There's 2 archers at the side. Let's take them out.
Well, nice work.
Item.
Hold on, the game is about loot.
Oh, an upgrade.
Awesome.
So now the Crusader is making his way into the cathedral. And this is where he's heard a rumor that there's a bunch of refugees hiding, and they're not safe here. So the Crusader's got to get into the cathedral and try to stabilize the situation before he can worry about anything else. Just save as many civilians as possible. And
one of the things I really love about the Crusader is how the tactical combinations of all the skills to really give a really great feeling as for the player. You can come up with some great 1, 2, 3 combos.
And you saw that a bunch of those Reapers were running towards the cathedral, and that's because they can sense life. When they sense the living nearby, they're going to make right for it and try to end it. So now Tyrael shows up. Lorath ran and got him. He's here. He's injured, but he's ready to team up with you. And now that you two have joined forces, you're going to be able to go into that cathedral and find out what's going on, because it might not be pretty.
Well, that looks friendly.
Looks great.
Yeah, no trouble ahead.